And welcome back to Soul Healing with the ETs. It's been a while, hasn't it? Do we really incarnate over and over and over? Well, we don't, but our soul sure does, over and over and over and over again. And we all have a soul. Well, most of us. Our souls are all divine sparks of Source, also known as God. Source is the pure living intelligence that is behind all creation. View Source as an entire ocean, and each one of our souls is one drop of water in that ocean, so that we are Source and Source is us. We are all brothers and sisters of the same Source. Our souls are indestructible and eternal. They live forever. Our souls are from a much higher dimension of peace, love, and joy, and are bundles of energy, are divine beings of light, and are hungry for experiences so that they can grow, evolve, and expand in consciousness. Our souls are multidimensional beings, meaning they can be in different planets, places, dimensions, galaxies, universes, all at the same time. But then time doesn't exist. It's just a construct here on Earth and some other planets. So each life that our soul lives is just a wink of an eye as far as our soul is concerned. Our souls have no fear, and they want to experience everything that there is to experience across all dimensions and universes. Our souls choose circumstances that will push them to their limit. And one of the most challenging places throughout all the universes for our souls to incarnate and experience is here on planet Earth. Planet Earth is a very low dimensionality. It's only on the third dimensionality. So there's only second dimension and first dimension below us. And dimensions just go whew through the roof. You can have, fifth dimension, seventh, 10th, 20th, 30th, 100th. It's pretty much infinite how many dimensions there are. So Earth is on a very low dimensionality. And as beautiful as Earth is, it's riddled with wars and conflict and division, misery, suffering, illness. However, that's counterbalanced by the sheer beauty of this planet Earth, as well as love that can be found within the creatures that live on this earth, and joy and hope and camaraderie. What a great place to learn for our souls. There's so much to experience. Now, our souls come to Earth to have an experience in a three-dimensional format. So our soul will incarnate as an insect, bird, fish, a bush, a tree, an animal, a human, an extraterrestrial, or an intraterrestrial, all depending on what the soul wants to learn. And generally, our souls go from a less complex incarnation, such as a bush, to a more complex one, such as a human. Our soul incarnates into a human body so that it is capable of having an experience with physical substance. So, us humans, we are the terrestrial vehicle that our soul incarnates into to be able to have that experience with physical matter. So look at it this way. Our soul is here to learn, and our human meat suit, we are the learning vessel. Now, before your first incarnation, one of the first things that's going to happen is that you need a soul guide. And a soul guide is a guide that is going to follow you from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime to lifetime, and for forever. And the soul guide's job is basically there to keep you on track with what your mission is going to be. Now, a soul can have more than one guide depending on the complexity of the mission, and each of these guides will have a different role. Now, in my case, my first incarnations were in Andromeda, so I consider myself Andromedan, as that's where my first incarnations were. And from all the description that I've been able to find about Andromedans, I tick pretty much all the boxes. So, but here on Earth, I'm an old soul, which means that I've lived more lifetimes here on Earth than most other souls out there in the whole planet. I've lived thousands upon thousands and thousands more lifetimes here on Earth. That said, other souls are old souls in other realms, in other dimensions, on other planets and other galaxies or universes. There's, a gazillion places we can go and incarnate and experience on all sorts of different dimensions. So we're all old souls in one place or another. Okay, so you've got your life guide who follows you around for your eternity, and you've chosen where you first want to incarnate. And then the next thing you got to do is up in soul land, in soul space, is that you're getting together with your guide and your teachers of life, and then you're choosing the lessons that you want to live in this incarnation. You're choosing your objectives and your mission, which is your purpose. Now, we discussed this in episode number 3 of the soul contract. So now you're basically ready and to incarnate. Now, here on Earth, when we incarnate, our memory is wiped out to make it a true learning experience. If we were to all realize that we were pure divine beings of light and that we were participating in a giant pre-scripted play with characters that we chose prior to incarnating, it wouldn't be much of an authentic learning experience now, would it? Nah. And then you complete your life and you go back up into soul land, and after you get together with again with your soul guide and your soul teachers, and you review the life that you just completed, and you go over things that you achieved, things where you excelled, things where we fell short, things that we forgot to do, and then you can start planning another incarnation with maybe new objectives or things that we forgot in the previous incarnation or things from a past life. Or you just take a break from incarnating because you want to change and you just stay in soul form and you become an angel on different dimensions. You become a life guide for other souls. You do soul stuff. Soul stuff. Our souls are multidimensional beings. So our soul can be a human over here, or two, and can be a plant in another planet. It can be an angel in a higher dimension. It can be a life guide for other souls here on Earth or in other places. Our soul can be an extraterrestrial or the captain of a galactic spaceship, all at the same time, because time doesn't exist. We are not remotely, randomly here on Earth with no objective and just drifting around. We are here, all of us, for very specific reasons. And I don't think those include playing video games and eating Doritos and getting drunk and watching mainstream media. Although those can all be fun. But there's something far greater at play here. And it is up to us to discover that we all have a purpose. And part of that purpose is awakening to the fact that we are all divine sparks of source. And we are all here to complete a soul contract and to carry out our purpose. Why did our soul want to be here on Earth at this moment, this time, in this human meat suit, with the parents that we chose, and in this country? There's a reason for all of those, and we're going to jump into all those in future broadcasts. We are all part of a huge cosmic play involving millions of other souls. Nothing, absolutely nothing that happens to us here on Earth is accidental. From car accidents to physical injuries, broken bones, dislocations, the torn ligaments, to having birth defects, to being born with a cerebral palsy or Down syndrome, to getting married, divorced, to having tons of kids, abortions, to being extremely wealthy, to being in extreme poverty, to having the most fulfilling jobs, to having the most unfulfilling jobs, to having kids, to having pets, to being in love head over heels, to never being in love, to having a best friend forever, to not having a best friend forever, to being rejected by your best friend, to being the best athlete out there, to being a wannabe athlete, but you could just never make it, to being the best artist in the world, to being the shittiest artist in the world. None of these are random. They are all organized in advance, usually before incarnation. And each event and encounter serves as an experience, as part of a lesson, as far as our soul is concerned. Our souls are simply here on Earth to learn and experience, while we, the human incarnation, go through all the ups and downs, go through all the emotions, so that our soul can grow and evolve and expand in consciousness. Souls. It's so much easier to be human when we can understand that everything is an experience, that everything is a game, and that everything can be resolved. Earth is a playground for our souls. Conversely, it can be really difficult to be a human when you're stuck in fear, worries, doubts, when you don't feel safe, when you feel rejected. Earth is a playground for our souls. What is happening to us humans is part of a giant pre-scripted play being carried out by beings from a much, much higher dimension than we are. pure divine beings. Let that sink in. Rewind it as many times as you need to and listen to it again. We are all part of a giant play. It's the play of our lives, but also it's a coordinated play where millions and millions of souls, well, all souls are involved in one way or another. Whew! Yeah, what a life, eh? What a great training ground this planet Earth is. Changing subjects. My mom is 89, and she fell in late January and broke her hip and wrist. And so I went back home for 3 weeks to help take care of her. And then I got injured and had a whole mess of other things happen to me. So I apologize for disappearing, but I'm back. And there's a really beautiful story took place at the hospital when I was there. And now, as to why my mom fell, there's a much bigger reason than just her getting dizzy and falling in the garage. And we're going to jump into that in a future episode when I'm more comfortable with that material and have a better grasp of it. But the great story is, in my mom's room, my mom had a roommate who was Carmen, and same age. She also had a broken hip. And every day when I went to visit, it would be visiting both girls, Carmen's husband would be there. And we got to talking. And he was telling me how 10 years ago that he was having a stent put into one of his arteries. And then something went wrong and he had a heart attack and he went to the other side. You know, he died, right? He went to the other side. And he was telling me how he was just in pure bliss. And he had no physical ailments, you know, no restrictions, no limitations. He was free. He just said he just remembered being able to float around, and it was happiness and love, and there was other souls there, and he was just back to his what we all want to be back to, being pure souls. And then the doctors got the paddles out, brought him back to life, and he was slammed back into his physical body. And then he remembers thinking, like, why'd you do that for? I was so happy and I was at peace. And then when he regained consciousness, when he regained some strength, he blasted the doctors about what they did. And the doctors are like looking at him like, what is he talking about? But it's such a great story. And it's just nice to know that that's what's waiting for all of us. Our body will expire at some point, and that's why we want to take good care of it. But our soul never dies and just wants to come back for more experiences. It's eternal. Death frees us from the limitations of this human body, and then we get to go back to what we naturally are, pure divine beings of light, and with unlimited joy and love and harmony. So don't view death as a bad thing. It isn't. It's just a transition. It's a shift in consciousness. We get to go back to being in soul form. Basically, our soul sheds our human body just like a snake would shed an old skin. Now, once we go to the other side, we regain full memory of every life that we ever lived and every experience that we accomplished as well, or that we lived as well. And it's only when our soul incarnates into the human body that its memory is wiped out. But don't be in a rush to get to the other side, because then you won't have accomplished your soul contract and then you'll have to come back again. You'll have your memory wiped out again, because our souls want to achieve what they set out to achieve. You know, a lot of people say that they never want to come back to Earth, right? I never want to go back to Earth. It was so hard, so harsh. The people were so mean. I had so many physical ailments. It was terrible. And yeah, well, from a much higher dimension, when our soul is preparing its next incarnation, it is free of all limitations. And you can just imagine a soul being up in, soul land and soul space with its life guide and teachers, and thinking, okay, so in the next incarnation, I'm going to marry 3 men, and I'm going to have 2 kids with each one, and I'm going to divorce the first 2, and I'm going to homeschool all the kids by myself, and I'm going to live in 3 different countries, and I'm going to have a horrific car crash and break my whole body. And once I'm recuperated from the car crash and my rehabilitation is all done, then I'm going to fall off a rock wall while I'm rock climbing. Yeah, that'll be easy. And then the soul gets slammed into this human body. This 3-dimensional body has its memory wiped out, and then has to compose with the 3-dimensionality of the earth that we live on. Isn't being human fun? It's important to know that we're living in unprecedented times geopolitically right now, as we all know, and to try to stay calm throughout all the havoc that is happening right now around the world. Now, from our soul's perspective, it's just an experience. But war is such a stupid, low-dimensional event. And they try to tell us that war has been present throughout the entire history of humanity. No, it hasn't. But they've tried to normalize war, that we all just think that it's a place. It's so idiotic. So the one key thing here that we'll come back to in future episodes, but I was mentioning in a past episode, we all have contracts. Any of us that are integrating with each other, that are having an experience with each other, we have a contract. It's an agreement between the 2 souls. Hey, you do this and I'll do that. So the same thing applies to soldiers. First of all, you're going to volunteer to be a soldier. This is usually before incarnation. It can be done after as well, but it's usually before incarnation. But just imagine 3 soldiers that go off to combat, and so there's a contract between, like, let's say you're shooting me, and and I die. Now, the suffering is real. The losing your husband, brother, son, and so on. The suffering is all real, but it's all part of an experience as far as our soul is concerned. But what I'm getting to is, just imagine that there's 3 soldiers, and they all pass away, and they go back up to review their life that they've just completed, and with their soul guide and their teachers of light. And the teachers ask the souls, hey, so Jake, what happened to you? I was flying a fighter jet, and a Tomahawk missile took me down and blew me to smithereens. And how about you, Alex? What happened to you? I was just walking down the street, and a tank drove over me and flapped me like a pancake. But what about you, Jake? And they put a grenade in my mouth, and they pulled the pin, and my head blew up like a piñata. Oh, so what would you 3 like to do in your next incarnation? This is hilarious. Every experience, everything that happens to us is just an experience as far as our soul is concerned. Everything is a game. These are beings from a much, much higher dimension than we are on. But I tell you, the things that they make us go through, you know, if I had a giant tennis racket, but it would be more like an energy racket, I would give a royal spanking to my soul, especially for what I've been through in the past 2 months. I would just think, you're a bad soul. You're a bad, 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 bad soul. But we're stuck with these souls, you know? And I'm now starting to realize, because I'm feeling better, that maybe what did happen to me over the past 2 months is an experience. Maybe it is a game or part of a game. I'm still processing that. But we're stuck with these souls. And our souls are from a much higher dimension. So perhaps we should really think about what they want us to achieve while we're here on planet Earth. You know, our souls knew we could handle this, and that's why they incarnated at this moment, for us to experience what is happening in the world right now, which is monumental. So, throughout all this chaos that's happening in other areas, or in your area, make it easier on yourself. Put your energy into places that make you feel good and that elevate your frequency. If you are with certain people, places, events that drain you, that lower your frequency, try to remove yourself, or at least partially remove yourself from those things and events and people that drain your frequency. Find a friend or two or three that you can discuss all of the above with. Try to, talk about, think about what your purpose and your soul contract is here on Earth. And as well, try to listen to what your soul is not whispering to you, but is trying to feed you through intuition, because all our intuition is from our soul. So try to pay attention every day. Hey, am I feeling something inside? Remember, this is not at all the end of things. Most of us will be around in these body suits, these meat suits, for years to come, and then we get to go back to soul form, and then we get to incarnate in all sorts of other places, physical and non-physical. Our souls incarnate over and over and over. Our souls, we all live millions and millions and millions of lives. Hey, if you have any questions or comments about what was said today, you know where to put those. And in the next podcast, I want to jump into, why did our soul specifically choose the two souls that would become our parents? Of all the souls out there, why did our soul choose the two souls specifically? There is a reason for that. And we're going to jump into that in the next podcast. And I would like to dedicate this podcast to Jesus, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how humanity is going to come together over the coming weeks and months and years. And thanks for tuning in to Soul Healing with the ETs. Good choice. See you on the next one.